Hey everybody, thank you for watching. We're going to finish up our discussion around executive functioning with talking about metacognition. So metacognition is a pretty high level skill developmentally. So for a lot of our elementary, middle school, and even some high school students, they're not going to be able to do this skill independently. However, we do want to continue to coach this and we want to continue to build this skill up so that way when they are older, um, they are able to do it. So this isn't because they don't want to do it, it's just because their brain hasn't developed yet to get this far. So why am I going to talk about metacognition if the kids can't do it yet? Well, as I said, it's important to build this up because what metacognition is, it's taking a bird's eye view of a self, oneself, or a situation, and then really thinking about how to observe and problem solve overall. Uh, it's self-monitoring. We're going to self-evaluate. We're going to ask questions like, how am I doing? How did I do? Those are all things that you can do when it comes to metacognition. Those are some pretty easy scripts for middle schoolers that would be good to use with your own kids. Uh, Metacognition takes into consideration everything we've done. So it will take into consideration planning, time management, uh, organization, goal setting. Metacognition puts all of that together. So it's kind of the overall umbrella of executive functioning. Where might you see times that you can use metacognition? So one of the areas that I sometimes see it in that would be easy to do is math. What if you think of order of operations? We have the acronym PEDMAS, parentheses, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. We all remember that's order of operations. Sometimes students don't always see when signs change when adding and subtracting. So what they may do is before they start a problem, they have to think about, what am I doing? Am I adding? Am I subtracting? Or am I multiplying? Am I dividing? It may also be that the students have to write down. We have a lot of word problems. So writing down what they have to do, and sometimes writing down the words instead of just the part of the problem. That step one, they have to add two numbers. Step two, they're going to multiply or subtract numbers. So error monitoring checklists will also help. So for example, with writing, so a lot of kids will forget to put in punctuation or capitalization. So doing some error checklists, and there's tons of free ones online for writing, and how to make sure that they've got all the bits and pieces for writing in, can definitely help build that skill. Asking themselves some questions. So when there's a problem, taking a moment to just ask yourself some questions and saying them out loud. What exactly is the problem? Sometimes being able just to define the problem is difficult. Thinking about when I have special education, sometimes parents come in and they're like, they just need to be tested. And what is the problem? Because I can throw a bunch of tests at you. Just like when you go to the doctor's office, we can do a whole bunch of stuff. But if we don't kind of have an idea of what the problem is, all those tests may not answer your question. So same things with kids is when they come up with what you see as a problem, asking them exactly what the problem is, and then developing steps to solve that problem and how it's going to be done. You're also going to want to ask specific questions, as I just said, tailored to the problem. That is where we go back to the scripts around time management, goal setting, self-evaluation. All those different pieces come into play. I can't stress enough using visuals for this. This is going to be really, really important. Something that kids can rely on. Writing things down, physically writing things down, increases the ability for it to stay organized in your brain 80% better than if you use technology to do that. So I always suggest writing it physically down. I know there's some kids who do have difficulty with fine motor skills. So you want to make this kind of simple and sweet. We're not talking about long checklists or anything like this. Sometimes it can be one word. Sometimes the checklists can be made and laminated, so that way they can use a dry erase marker too. So that way they can do a checklist instead of writing it out each time. The checklist can be used for chores done at home. It can be done for homework, or it can be done for different academic tasks as well. And then again, practice, practice, practice together, doing this coaching thing. What does it look like? What are your expectations? What is your child's expectations? Really bringing that all together um, is really going to help. You want to be your child's frontal lobe again. You really want to help coach your child through these situations. So the heart of metacognition is self-monitoring, self-evaluation. So make sure that your child's really an active participant in all of these skills, that you're not making the decisions for them. What do they feel the evaluation should look like? Uh, it's going to be simple enough for your child at their developmental level that they can do it independently. And eventually you want to build upon that as they develop more skills and more independence. And encourage them instead of always solving the problem for them, which I know sometimes is a very quick and easy way, and kids want problems to be solved for them, but encourage them to think of ways to solve the problem. Even if it gets to that you know you're going to have a big meltdown, even if you give them a couple of choices, and then allowing them to follow through those choices, even if you think it might not be the best choice, allowing that your child and supporting them through the choice that they made. Sometimes we have to fail. When we fail, that's how we learn. And I know as a parent, it's awful to watch our kids fail, but sometimes it's really important to support them through that process. Um, if it's going to be a big failure that's going to have legal consequences, I would definitely step in. But otherwise, having those natural consequences occur can sometimes be so much more of a learning strategy than anything else can be, anything that we can tell them or teach them. So also helping them, remind them before you start something what the experience is going to be, what strategy they're going to use, kind of having that all set up together. Again, it kind of sounds a lot overall, but if you've been following these videos along all the way, a lot of this you're already doing. A lot of this has already been discussed. A lot of this already has scripts. So it's just pulling everything together, which hopefully you've seen over time, especially when I was doing the calendars and whatnot, that metacognition is everything together, putting it all together and really doing this evaluation piece. Not always easy to do, but I think it's a really important skill that we do address ourselves and what our own personal strengths and weaknesses are, and how do we cope with our weaknesses? How do we use our strengths? What is that going to look like for us as individuals? So I hope you've enjoyed these brief talks on executive functioning. We have a few more weeks before the end of the school year, so I'm going to give you some suggestions on things to do with your kids over the summer and expectations that you can have of them, and hopefully have some fun activities that you guys might be able to do together, especially since they're going to involve money, because we all know kids want to buy things. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.